Now are you sure? All right, hey guys, what's going on? I wanted to film the final tie-up video for Yolanda, and I feel terrible because that house sold so quick that we didn't really have time to get you in there and show you the absolute finished product. But I think you got a lot of it from the last video. Plus, our people that actually bought the house didn't really want to be filmed, so we want to make sure we respect everybody's privacy. So I really want to introduce you to them, kind of walk through some of the paperwork, which we'll do in another video. So make sure you subscribe, stay tuned, because we'll definitely walk through that. But they didn't want to be filmed, and we got to respect their privacy. But I want to make sure that everybody understands the final numbers when it came to this house, because we are done with this completely, and I wanted to walk you through it. So our house on Yolanda, this is what happened. We purchased the house on March 2nd, okay? We owner financed the house on 6/1. That's the day that we sold the house to a couple, okay? It was a couple that had 2 kids. We sold the house to them, and that's the day that we actually closed on the house. So as you can see, it's about 3 months. And then the day that we sold the note was July 26th. It took a couple more months, and I'm going to explain what we mean by selling the note here in just a minute. But I want to walk you through the numbers on how much money we made, because like I said, we're going to reveal all here. Okay, so the money that we got for this initial investment was not out of my pocket. We borrowed this money from a private investor, and what we did is we ended up borrowing $55,082.44. That was the original purchase price of the house, if you remember that. I put down $500 in escrow for my own money, you know what I mean, or the earnest money, excuse me. And then so our total acquisition cost for the house was $55,582. That's how much it costed for me to own the house. Now, during the time between when we purchased it and when we owner financed it, during these 3 months right here, we spent $23,000 on rehab. Again, this is a big, big change. If you have not been paying attention, this is less than half of what it would have cost to flip the house. Because again, we just go through, make sure it's safe. If you remember, we had some electrical things, we had a little bit of plumbing, some termite damage. We fixed all of that, made sure it was safe and livable. Only cost us $23,000 to rehab the house. So all in all, that's how much it costs to get the house up to par. Now, when you borrow money from somebody, you need to pay them interest. So the days that we had the house until we owner financed it was 91 days. And so that took us, the daily interest is $9.30 on that. We had to pay $846 in interest to our lender for those 91 days. It took an additional 55 days to close the note, which at $9.30 is another $511. So our total cost on this house was $80,461.80, and we sold it for $99,900. Now here's the thing. So we had a total profit of $19,000. Here's the cool thing. We did that with other people's money. We created $19,000 out of thin air. We used other people's money to get this done. So when we did this, we created a note. We've talked a lot about this, and we turned around and sold the note to an investor. So if you are following along, it's kind of a long way around to end up with a $19,000 profit, because we had to owner finance again. And we get that question a lot. Why did you owner finance it? Why didn't you just flip it for $99,000? Well, because it actually saves us a lot of money for the little bit of time. And actually, this note was sold before this day, before July 26th. We'd actually sold it about a month prior. We were waiting for our lender for the note buyer to move some money around. So we sat on it a little bit longer than we would normally would. But the reason why we did that is just in realtor fees alone, we saved nearly $6,000. By selling this house ourselves, we saved the 6%, which is $5,994 that we didn't have to pay, that went back into my pocket. So instead of making $19,000, we would have made $13,000. So for just a couple extra days and for a little bit of yellow signs, you saw the yellow signs in the previous videos, we saved ourselves $6,000. So here's the final numbers when it came to Yolanda. Make sure that you are subscribed to our channel so we can show you the rest of these things and all the other deals that we do. Plus, if you have not yet, click the link in the description down below. That way you can get your free Project Stop Flipping account, and we're going to upload a lot of the documentation here that shows exactly where these numbers came from, so that way you have access to those as well. $19,000 down. I think if I do one more of these, I'll have enough money where I won't have to buy it or borrow money anymore, maybe 2 more. But the last thing I want to point out is we talk about this a lot in our thing. From start to finish, it was right about 5 months. And as you can tell, I wasn't sweating much, and you never saw me swinging hammers or anything like that. But during that 5 months, we made $19,000. Not a great rate of return if you're doing this instead of a full-time job, but if you're doing this as a side gig and you decide not to sell that note, This $100,000 sell price, amortized over 30 years, is a little bit over $241,000. So if you decided to hold this note as opposed to sell it, you could earn $241,000 and get our course, because we show you how to do that. And we show you how to, even if you need to get the capital out to repay your lenders, we also show you how to leverage it with banks, which is what we're going to do in the next one. So make sure you subscribe, because the next one we're leveraging with banks. And make sure you get your free stop flipping account. We'll see you soon. Ladies and gentlemen, we got our other partner, Mike Arch, here. I know you haven't seen a lot of him yet, but he is the man when it comes to helping us sell the notes. And I have to be honest, on Yolanda, I did not sell the note. Mike sold the note for us, and he got that one sold. So I want to talk to Mike a little bit about selling the note. So Mike, tell us, how did you find your seller when it came to selling the note?
Well, you know, Colin, every time I go to sell notes, I keep a kind of a running list of who's purchased notes in the past, and I have a regular system to keep up with those folks on, you know, when their money's compounding and when they might be in a position to buy notes. This particular one was a gentleman that had told me maybe a month earlier that he had sold a piece of property he had inherited for a couple $100,000. So he had the availability and was willing to look at a couple of notes. So it was a previous customer that had already purchased notes. So one thing that was really, this guy's really sensitive to is the profile of the buyer. You know, it's always a combination of, they want to know about the house, they want to know about the buyer, right? They kind of go together to make the note, right? You're at the house and the buyer. In this case, this guy's very sensitive to information about the buyer. This was a very strong file, the Yolanda file, because we had a single younger man that lived there with his family, and we actually had brought in a loan guarantor that was the uncle. So we had a really good family dynamic, which really made him comfortable with it. And as you know, the house was dressed up very, very nice and renovated very nicely.
Awesome. And so, and for what would you tell somebody who's new to finding note buyers? How would we find a note buyer?
You know, I think the key there is people think they need the rich guy or the rich gal, and that's not necessarily the case. Our typical note buyers, a lot of them come in and buy one or two notes. A lot of them have maybe some money that they had in an IRA from a previous job. A lot of people, when they discover an alternative investment like a real estate note, they liquidate a little bit of money that they already have in the stock market just to kind of diversify. So I think that's been our profile, is just kind of your average guy, typically older. I would say our typical note buyer is 50 plus. The older people tend to get that we deal with, the more conservative they are in terms of not wanting to deal with the ups and downs of the stock market. So we found that a lot of people, once they tiptoe into the note world, they slowly start liquidating some of their assets and putting more and more in the note world. So the only other little tidbit I'd like to say is, just like any sales world, when you've got a relationship, you only need one, and that's kind of how our whole world started. We started with one note buyer, and he has friends and they have friends, and that's kind of the way it rolls. And that's the way all of our relationships evolve, literally from one. So
and what do you show these guys? We were talking earlier about the preliminary note summary. Tell us a little bit about how you present that and what's going on there.
Yeah, we've got a little one-page note summary. It's basically here, I have little scribbly notes, just ignore that. But basically just a snapshot of the loan. You know, you've got the term of the loan, the interest rate, etc. We do a real little short profile of the buyer and the house, just kind of what we did on the house, new roof, new water heater, added central AC, those kind of things. And we just give them a snapshot of what we're dealing with. But really, I think the one-page note summary is to give them just a snapshot. Hey, it's a $80,000 note, you know, it's 10.9% interest. We did this, that, and the other thing to the house. Here's a little snapshot of the buyer. But at the end of the day, what we do and what's been most effective for us is just whetting their appetite with this little one-page note summary, and then getting them in the office or going to their office and kind of laying out a little bit more detail. You know, we put together these real nice note binders that kind of lay out, hey, here's proof from the title company about where every dollar went. They love the transparency of that. Here's proof that we had prepaid insurance, property insurance for the full year. Here's proof that we have title insurance on the thing. Here's some more documentation on the buyer's income. They just absolutely love that. I've heard comment after comment about the transparency and how much they appreciate our over-delivering on the documents to show them. So, and then all the legal recorded documents, I mean, that we do and that we get recorded at the courthouse. So it's you know, the one-page note summary is kind of to whet their appetite, and I always present that, hey, this is just a little easy way for us to give you a snapshot of what's in the pipeline. But when it comes down to actually selling the note, there's a lot more to it. I like to go ahead, and it's not always done face-to-face. We do a lot over the phone, especially for our repeat customers. But the same principle applies. Even if it's over the phone. We're saying, by the way, we've got prepaid insurance for the year. By the way, I've got a copy of the settlement statement for you. I'll be happy to email you. You know, by the way, all the legal documents have already been recorded, etc., etc. So I think just going over and over about how thorough we are on the process and the disclosure and the transparency is really where that trust is built.
Gotcha. And why do you like selling your notes as opposed to holding them?
Well, we'd love to hold as many as we can, and we do. The reality is we're producing so many notes, we just can't hold every single one of them. And as you know, when you sell a note, that's when you realize a profit. So we have to sell some notes to pay some bills around here, but other than that, we'd love to hold every single one of them.
And just to confirm with everybody out there, how many notes have you sold at a discount?
Very, very, very few. The answers in the last several years has been zero. I would be lying if I would said I've never discounted a note. When we very first started, early on, we had a couple instances where we were trying to, get the relationships going with a few people. We gave them little discounts, $500, $1,000, that sort of thing. But it's been years and years since we discounted a note. In fact, we've actually consider going the other way and charging a premium for some of our notes, because there have been times where the demand's been so strong and we just, we have note buyers standing in line and we don't have any notes to sell them. So we probably could push the envelope the other way if we wanted and charge a premium, but face value's good enough for us.
Awesome.
Hey, so you heard Mike talk a lot about a preliminary note summary and the actual note, the actual sample note binder, or the note binder that we hand to people. And so I wanted to show you these two things that we produce just specifically for our classes. So, ladies and gentlemen, click the link below. It's if you haven't had a Project Stop Flipping account, you need to get one. There's two pieces to this. One is the preliminary note summary, which you heard Mike talk about a little bit. He's a little bit more advanced, so his are one sheet. Right here, we put one of these together for you that actually outlines, if you create a company with things to put in there, what to put in about servicing, turnkey investment servicing. It explains the entire note process plus the note itself. So this is a great thing to start off by handing to people, and if you need a sample of it, you can only get it through our class. So make sure you're clicking the links below if you want to get involved in our class. And the other one, which you heard Mike say, early on when they were kind of new, they just had to discount a few notes. But if you know what you're doing and you create rock solid notes, you don't have to do that. And this is our note binder. Now this is a sample one. Yours may or may not look like this, but we actually break down every single thing in there. He said there's a lot of documentation. We explain what it is. Like, for example, you need to put your lien note in the note binder. So we have that in there. We explain what it is and we give you some examples of it. You need to put your deed of trust. There's a lot of paperwork that goes into it. You need to get with the class. If you want to create rock solid notes, you need this information. So click the link, get involved, make sure you like our page, make sure you subscribe on YouTube because we got more of this stuff coming.